Good morning. Good morning. I hope you brought your cup of coffee and or tea. Okay. Or your drink, your energy drink. Um, okay. Well, this is part three
Would
of
you
the
believe
series.
part three? We didn't get through the other two parts. We were going to do one show. We did one, and that part was our part three. So
Right.
we
Right.
did.
So hopefully if you haven't seen part one and two, please go back and watch it. Uh we did part one, had so much fun and had such energy going. We did part two recorded so that we could just continue on. And now it's a new day. So today is part three, and we're going to briefly go over the first two of the first. Well, we're going to tell you all 3 points, but the first two briefly go over. But go back and watch the shows. They were especially fun. They were especially fun and very, very informative. So see where you fall into any of these areas. The first one is, well, first of all, I'm Carol Henderson. I have Life by Design, and I help you to improve your business, your life, your well-being, all those areas, spirit, soul, and body, by helping you to spiral up instead of spiraling down. So definitely check out my other page, Life by Design, and come and ask questions. Put questions in these chats. So many of y'all watching don't put questions or comments in the chats. We really would like to read your questions and comments. And I've got my wonderful co-host, Miss Barbara Ellison, who is going to just enlighten us about what she does.
Yeah. Hi, I'm ABarbaraEllison. Yeah, I'm a transformational life trainer. But my mission is to make happiness the norm rather than the exception. And part of happiness is having the financial wherewithal to live a stress-free, can't talk this morning, a stress-free, abundant life. Because I truly believe that each and every one of us deserves to live a happy, healthy, financially free, abundant life. Well, part of being abundant is talking about money. And so many people, if you were anything like with me, like me, and as I grew up, we did not ever talk about money, not about making money. We talked about not having money. Absolutely. We can't afford to do that. Oh, we don't have the money for that. Oh no, we'll have to save that for the next paycheck. Money doesn't grow on trees. We had those conversations, but we never talked about how to increase abundance or to increase money or some critical things that go into having abundance and being wealthy. And so the first point that we talked about 2 weeks ago now, over 2 weeks ago, was the first one is that most people think only linear and having one job.
Or some
Well,
of them have two and three jobs because one
some of
job
them
no
have two
longer
or three
covers it.
jobs. Right. But I loved go back because I loved Carol's definition, and I've been hearing it for years, that when you have a job, you're just over broke. And the thing is, it does not matter what your income is. You could be a highfalutin corporate executive, but you're just over broke.
Yeah. Those corporate jets cost a lot.
Those corporate jets cost a lot, the expenses, the entertaining, all of that thing, all of those things of having a job.
Well,
Which,
and so many people buy themselves a job by
or they buy
having their
themselves a
own business, like a
job.
Subway, the Subway franchise. That those franchises typically make so little that the owner has to work in the franchise and pay himself a bonus. I mean, a salary. And so, doctors, we think, oh, doctors are wealthy. Well, no, they've got tons of what we
Malpractice.
call malpractice
Malpractice
insurance. that can
That's
put them out of business, not to mention if they miscode something now that it's all computerized and all of those kind of things. If they miscode it, they don't get paid. And
right.
so they don't make that much. We just think they do. And
Right.
they're in debt like this. Those
Right.
Mercedes payments don't come cheap.
Right. And it's kind of the keep up with the Joneses mentality. But then you get the truly wealthy people. Okay, like I love this. One day they were doing an interview with Warren Buffett. He is what? The richest, one of the richest people in the world. And he still lives in his same house and drives a late model car. Not a fancy car. He said, well, why do I need that?
Right.
Don't. So it's, he does not have the keep up with the Jones mentality.
Yes.
But that leads us to the second point, because the second point is, and what happens is when people get a raise, a bonus, an incentive trip, an incentive of some kind, not necessarily a trip, but a bonus, some kind of a monetary
Or how
incentive.
about if somebody gets a surprise envelope in the mail they haven't opened? What's their first
Exactly.
thought?
Yep. What am I going to buy?
Yeah.
Been
She
there,
shared that.
done that.
Mm-hmm.
Been there, done that. So they increase their expenses. The only problem is that it's not sustainable. One of the things that I really looked at was the people that have won the lottery. And the number of people that after winning a huge amount of the lottery,
Within
they are
1 or 2 years, isn't it?
within 1 or 2 years, they are worse off financially than they were before they won it.
And filing bankruptcy.
And filing bankruptcy because they went out and bought everything that their little heart desired that they thought was going to make them happy.
Well, and the thing is they still have that poverty mentality. So they're not just going out and plopping down the cash for it. They're setting up payments. They're going and
Yes.
buying on time. And
Right.
that's a whole quicksand quagmire.
Right, exactly. So Carol, this morning when we were talking about all the things that we had talked about, she told us a story, and I said you need to share that story because it is a perfect example. And because the dollar amount, it's not about the dollar amount, it's what you do with the dollar amount that you have and what the mindset is behind it. So, okay, Carol, you have to tell this story. I just loved it.
Okay, well, my mom and my aunt grew up in Houston, and one day they had an event coming up. I don't know what. And so my grandmother gave each of them $100 to go buy a dress. Now, that may not buy a very nice dress now, but back then.
Wasn't it $10? Okay, I'm going to interrupt you.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. Yes, yes, $10. Yeah, $10. I'm like, wow. Even as it came out of my mouth, I thought, wow, that's a lot back then. But $10 to buy a dress. Okay, $10. And I mean, that was back when, well, phone calls were, I think, a nickel back then. They were 10 cents when I was little. But
you go for penny candy. We would have penny candy.
Well, as an example, my dad went to the movie. His parents gave him 10 cents, and that gave him the movie, a Coke, and like a hot dog or something. Okay. What does a Coke, a hot dog, and a movie cost you now?
Oh,
20, 30?
$20 each.
At least. Yeah. And that, 10 cents to $20 so let's set this in advance. In fact, I can remember when I was a kid, Daddy came home and he told my mom that he'd gotten a raise, and they were all excited about this raise. And I don't remember now if it was 10 cents or a quarter. It was one or the other, but either one was sizable, even as I was a kid. But, and so it for their excitement, it may have been a quarter. And it was a quarter because my allowance was 3 dimes. I was taught 10% goes to tithe. I mean, 1 dime goes to tithe, 1 goes to savings, and 1 I can spend. So they were teaching me tithing and saving even as a small child, but that was my allowance and such. So it had to be a quarter raise, because I'm thinking that's not that much for them to be so excited. My daddy gets an extra quarter a week. Well, it was a quarter an hour, which was a
Now we're back.
sizable raise back then.
Substantial.
But, so that gives you a little bit about finances back then and amounts back then. So this was my mom's sister, her aunt. They were each given $10 to go downtown, take the bus, go downtown and buy a dress for this event. Okay, well, my mom bought her dress. Everything went fine. She has it wrapped up. Well, my aunt couldn't decide. She's number one, the baby of the family, but enough said. Anyway, she could not decide. And she was much more of a fashionista than my mom ever was. But she went and they had layaway then. And so she put $1 on 10 dresses on layaway. You don't get your money back then from a layaway. Anything you've put down is the stores, for holding it for you. Well, she came home and mom and grandma goes, "Where's your dress?" And she said, "Well, I couldn't decide. So I just put $1 on 10 dresses." And she's going, "That's $100. What are you doing?" So, do the math. I mean, if you take my dad's 10 cents for the movie theater being $20 now, do the math. Because crazy, but that's how people think. That they were young, they were high school
What's
girls.
going on now?
Yeah, it's going on with adults now. They get that raise, or they get that found cash that they know in their head is a one-time thing, like a check found in the mail, but they go out and buy something on time, and they think, well, I can make the minimum payments. Well, if you're making the minimum
credit
payment
card there.
on a credit card, like, you pay multiple times for that. I mean, that $10 dress could end up running 2 or 300 by the time you pay your interest. So really, I mean, when you're figuring things, figure in the interest. A house, most people do a 30-year mortgage, when for about $50 more a month, you could do a $15 mortgage. I mean, a 15-year mortgage, or a 10-year mortgage for $50 to $75 more a month. Now, that makes sense, because you pay off your house over time. You'll pay for it 3 times. 3
Right.
times.
Exactly.
As opposed to saving. Back in the day, people didn't have easy access to money like that. They would plan, they would save. And one of the exciting things that I heard the other day, it was a story. A family bought a refrigerator, and it was sort of a layaway, sort of a credit. This refrigerator had a slot that you put a dime in every week or month. I don't know what it was, but it was a little slot on the side of the refrigerator. And if you didn't feed it, the refrigerator would cut off. I've never heard of this before or since, but it was this family story. And they needed the refrigerator. They did that. And one week they couldn't come up with the dime to feed the refrigerator. Now that's when credit really jumps up and bites you in the backside. You lose all the food that's in there because you can't come up with a dime. And don't think, oh, well, I'd run next door and get a dime. Back then, number one, like Barbara said, people didn't talk about money. They didn't borrow from friends.
Admitted that you were in financial straits.
Oh, yeah. And there certainly wasn't any cloud funding, or what is it? The
funding
group, whatever.
There's several different GoFundMe.
Yes, that's the one I was thinking. They didn't have things like that. So if you didn't have a dime, you sold something to get it. And then you have to have something that's worth a dime, back when a dime was
worth something,
worth its weight in silver, because they were real silver back then. So Anyway, I'll get off my high horse.
Yeah, but the thing is, though, it's the mindset.
Mm-hmm.
It's the mindset that we're talking about. The mindset is timeless.
Yes. Yes.
The mindset is
Exactly.
timeless. Like it talks about in the Bible, do not go, do not lend money and do not borrow money. Well,
Yeah.
guess what? People do it all the time.
The borrower is servant to the lender. Now stop and think about that. Think about what they can do to you if you miss payments. And then people, they start missing payments and they start adding more things, and then they can't make that minimum payment.
Can't even make the minimum.
Instead of, we talked last time about, our parents would pay, when credit cards did come up, my mom would ledger it in her checkbook like it was a check, and then
Right.
pay for it when it came in. So she didn't have fees. She didn't pay all the borrowing fees, but she still had the advantage of credit. I do similar because I cut up my credit cards and I use a debit card.
I use a
I
debit
want to
card.
use my money, not somebody else's, because I don't
Yep.
want to pay them to use their money. And I don't want to get into the point of having not being able to pay a bill, because my husband and I both had our own businesses. And so he was a contractor. Sometimes you're building, sometimes you're not. And so,
Right.
We learned early on, don't get in big credit.
Right. So that's huge. So that brings us to number 3, because this is going to be a little bit shorter show today, because this is the last thing that we're going to be talking about. But people now are focusing on saving. They're now thinking that, oh yeah, I don't have enough money to do, so I've got to find ways to save money. I'm going to save money. So what do? They scrimp on, they stop buying clothes, they stop going out for dinner, they might stop their Netflix or TV subscription.
All those
They'll
are good things.
and all
Those are fine. Okay.
Yeah, as long, but that's what happens so often. People when they do run into a financial hole, they start hoarding and start pushing, rather than going the opposite way, which is what we're talking about. So they go even more into a scarcity mindset.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, they don't have this, so they're going to do this. So they're going to cut out this. They're going to cut out this. They're going to cut out this. So they're looking for all the ways that they can save money, rather than looking at the ways that they can leverage and increase their income.
And there is a time for that. Both of us have cut out some of the classes. When you're in the social network world and YouTube and stuff, there are so many classes you can take, and you can just pay $37 here or $97 there or $197 here. And and then you end up so busy you can't even take the classes that you paid for.
Right. Right.
So there is a time to cut back. There is a time to reevaluate what am I getting for these dollars?
Right. What am I, is this serving, like one of my favorite questions now to myself is this serving me? Am I using this?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
If you're not using it, cut it out of your budget. I had to do one the other day. I was looking through my checkbook. Peruse your checkbook, peruse your payments. And the other day I had something and I went, number one, I had no idea couldn't remember what it was. And it was only like $9 or something, but it was still $9.
Still $9 is $9. It adds up.
What it was for. I said, well, guess what? So that's on my list for this week, is to find out, because it was like $9 a month.
Mm-hmm. Well, so for those of y'all that think it's only $9, that's $120 a year. Yeah. What can you do with $120 a year? Now, if you're using it, yeah, but I will tell you, we cut out Netflix long ago, and there's not a lot we can't watch on TV. Okay, that we cast from our phones or the computer onto the TV, and almost all of that stuff is on other platforms for free or for a very low cost.
You're right. Or you get one that's all encompassing, and I'm not totally a big fan of Amazon. However, Amazon if you have Amazon Prime for one flat fee, you can get free shipping, you can get TV, you can get all sorts because it's all included.
Yes. And for
So,
music.
and for music, and it's like, if it feeds you, like one of the things that I pay for is, and it's called Abide, because it feeds my soul.
It
And
calls
it
it what?
Abide.
Oh,
It,
okay. Your
it's
Bible app, basically.
my Bible app. It's like a Bible app, and I meditate to it every day. It feeds my soul. So if it's something like that, yes, absolutely do it. However, if it's not serving you, cut it out. Because
Yes,
you know what? Your expenses are going to continue. And right now we have this thing called inflation. So if you are not increasing your income, I'm sorry, but you can only cut out so far.
exactly. Yeah, you
So
have to eat, you have
you
to heat your house, you have to have water, food, clothing, and shelter. Now, clothing in our day and time, you can cut out 99% of it.
yeah,
Back
and
in the day here on the prairie, they had two dresses,
yeah,
maybe three. They had
maybe
their, huh?
maybe a pair of shoes.
Well,
Sometimes shoes.
you mean a second pair of shoes.
Second pair of shoes, yeah.
Yeah, around here we have grass spurs, so most people had one pair of shoes at least. But then you had your Sunday go to meeting dress. You had that one nice dress that you wore every Sunday, and you had one or two for daily wear, and you wore aprons and stuff
Right.
like that. The apron has gone the way of the dodo bird. I mean, people don't even know where or how to get aprons. And personally, I had one once that it was almost like the backward shirts of the
Yeah.
that you wore in kindergarten for finger painting, and it had sleeves that were to here. It was really big, and it tied in the back. I loved it. I had it when the kids were young. The lady that was the lunch supervisor at my kid's school gave it to me when I was helping her one day and told me to keep it. I wore that all the time because it kept my clothes clean when I was cooking. I mean, like yesterday, I put up pumpkins. We're in the middle of harvesting chickens. And so I don't wear any of my clothes when I'm doing all that. I wear like a t-shirt and jeans.
Grubbies. I
Yeah.
always call them grubbies. So
But yeah.
absolutely.
And when you cut back, when you get out of debt, and I want to mention that Barbara's going to talk to you about investing, which is definitely something you need to
Oh,
do.
that's going to be the next show.
Oh,
Is
okay. I thought we were going to talk about it. Well, let's just get in on debt. Let's dig in on debt then. If because you are paying so many times, so many ways for your purchases, 9 times that you aren't using. How many times have you bought something and then it hangs in your closet or it gets thrown in the corner and you don't miss using it, you don't miss having it, and or it breaks and you never miss it, or you lost it because you put it somewhere safe? I mean, I've never done this personally, but I had friends that would go to the store and buy things and hide them in the closet so their husband wouldn't see them.
right.
And then bring it out and say, "Oh, I've had this for a long time."
Yep.
That's a
I've done
form
that.
of deceit. Yeah. I mean, fortunately, I never had to do that because he didn't mind, and that just wasn't something I did. But that can add up, especially if you're doing it on a credit card. So the main thing is to start getting out of your recurring payments. And how many
Right.
times have you forgotten about one and had a bank charge?
Oh, done there last week.
Yeah. I mean, something just slips your mind that you didn't. For a while there, I had a page and everything I had, I would check it off and the day that it comes out. I need to get back to that because I've not been great at following those things. So get out of debt and, you know, go for there. So anyway, that's a little bit about what we're covering. And so I guess now we're going to tune in one more week so you can
One
find
more
out
week.
part three and the third item, because two really was a big one. Two
Yeah.
really was a big one. So we want to tell you it's wonderful. Thank you for coming on.
Yep.
We love having you. Put your thoughts and your questions down in the chat, and we will answer them. If you want to know any more about things that we do to bring in more income,
Yep.
put it in the chat and ask.
Talking
We'd
about
be
leveraging,
more than glad to tell
leveraging.
you up close and
Great.
personal about the things that we do. So talk to you later. Bye,
Have a good one.
guys.